Hi friends, my name is Alex Rahill. I'm the Director of Church Planting for the Evangelical Covenant Church. And I'm also a volunteer interim lead pastor at a church that is fully online at this time. And we're talking about digital church adaptations. This is a really important part of our ministry. As we talked about in our earlier sessions, every church from now until who knows when, until Jesus comes back, is going to be in person and online. And we're talking about now about digital church adaptations. One of the important things to remember in this, as we think about this, is your ministry goals are the same. We're trying to connect people with God. We talked about this in the early training episodes. Our goal is to be disciples that make disciples. We're trying to connect people with God, that they would know and love God. We're trying to connect people inward with one another so that we grow together to become like Christ. And we're trying to connect people with God's mission in the world, that they were made for a purpose, up, in, and out. And as we think about our digital ministry, we're still thinking about those same things. How do we help people follow Jesus and become disciples? In our Sunday morning, as we've often come to think of it, as our worship gathering, we want to look at a digital platform matrix for how we think about our worship gatherings. And again, it can be easy to get lost in the technical discussion. And the real things that we need to be considering are, how do we connect people with God? How do we help people experience God's Spirit in worship and God's truth through the relevant teaching of His Word, of teaching His Word? And how do we connect people with God's new people with God's people, the congregation? How do we help them form meaningful connection? And if we were to do this in a very blunt way, we're thinking about two things here. Content is the vertical axis. Connection is the horizontal axis. And we want to look at a couple of different ways to think about how we do our online ministry to maximize both the connection with God, the content element of the value that we're adding to people through our worship experience, and the connection element. How are we helping people get meaningfully engaged with other people? And so if we think about that, you're going to see on your screen a matrix that has 4 quadrants. And the worst form of ministry is to do a mediocre broadcast. If we think about broadcasting, Facebook Live or something like that, where we pre-recorded a message, the worst form of online ministry, worship ministry, is a mediocre broadcast where the quality's not high and there's no connection. If we move up a level to a 5-star broadcast, we're thinking T.D. Jakes, Andy Stanley, you're still only getting into the yellow zone. And we colored this. I colored this red, yellow, and green. Red is the worst. Yellow is okay. Green is our optimal ministry zone. And so if we have a great broadcast with great content, but we can't connect people to the congregation, to other people, we're still missing it. If we think then a mediocre broadcast, a great broadcast, it's good content, but not connection. The next question is, well, how do we move over to higher connection? And Zoom is often the medium for a high connection engagement. And so many churches utilize Zoom as a way for people to see each other face to face, and they have meaningful connection. However, Zoom will always top out in the quality of the content we can provide. Now, you can do Zoom in a fully immersive experience with your church, and then you can have video elements that you show that are well done, like worship or like a teaching segment. But Zoom quality tops out sooner than a broadcast quality. What's the kind of the optimal window? And if you look up in the green quadrant up there, it's how do we have a high quality content, a high quality worship experience, and meaningful connection right up here in this quadrant. And a lot of churches are experimenting with how to do that. Some are pre-recording their service to a certain point, and then they're directing people to a virtual lobby where they might have communion, there might be prayer, there might be further sharing. And we're trying to move people from being unknown, people who are watching anonymously, to making themselves known, which again, our goal is always face-to-face ministry. One of the ways churches are also doing this is they're doing a pre-recorded broadcast, but they're meeting in small home gatherings of 6, 8, 10 people, depending on, again, how many people you can have. Right now, again, a lot of places are on quarantine because of COVID, but there are a lot of churches that are growing through the home gatherings where people are meeting in person and they're watching the broadcast together, they're worshiping together, and then they're sharing their own thoughts and reflections on the message, as well as prayer requests. And that's becoming one of those sweet spots where you have both good content, a good worship experience, and good connection, strong connection. One of the things that I have mentioned before, but I'll mention, I think I'll repeat it now. It's this: as we're thinking about online ministry, we can improve our ministry every week by planning, implementing, evaluating, and revising it. P-I-E-R, peer, like a pier that a boat would moor to. And that's a good format to think about, hey, let's evaluate our service, what worked, what didn't work, how can we revise it for next time? And so in the church that I'm with right now, we were doing home gatherings. So we were doing an online broadcast. We were having virtual gatherings so that people would gather after the service online, and then we had home gatherings. Our restrictions just went up, and so now everybody is back to fully virtual, and we're broadcasting part of the service, and then we're having a virtual lobby with communion and other elements afterwards. Other churches are doing fully Zoom. And in fact, one of the things I've observed, I haven't done a poll on this, but as I've talked to churches all over the country, many churches that are smaller are utilizing Zoom really effectively, and they actually have a higher percentage of people who regularly show up because they know they're going to be seen. And everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be known. Everybody wants to be loved. And there's a number of churches that are using Zoom really effectively as well. The important thing to think about when you think about your digital church adaptations are, what is our goal? We're trying to connect with people with God, and we're trying to connect people with one another. And as we think about, again, our 7 systems, we're also considering how are we reaching out to people and inviting them into the community, and are those steps easy or difficult? Obviously, if you're broadcasting something on Facebook Live, it's easy for a person to hop online and watch part of a service and then jump back off. They stay anonymous. So there's a lot of, the door is very big, but it's also hard to sometimes get people to take that step from being unknown to known. Zoom is more intimidating if someone comes into a Zoom gathering. But again, depending on how we do this as a church, both of those methods can be fruitful for us. Again, I want to repeat that the most important thing to consider is, what are our goals, and what tools will best facilitate us reaching those goals of ministering to the people God's called you to minister to. God has a community He's called you to reach, and He's going to give you what you need to do that. And you're trying to utilize the tools that will help you get there. I hope this helps. I'm excited for how God's going to use you. If you want to I want to refer you to section 12 of your well-conceived project plan. And I want you to start to think about what are some of the digital adaptations you're going to make for each system, and start doing that homework, start working that plan. And as always, you want to be talking to your facilitator and your coach about what's the best plan for you. Thanks so much, and I hope to see you soon. God bless.